Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Success Secrets Revealed show with Ronald Couming. And our guest today will be Mary Cheyne. And she's a transformational public speaking trainer, coach. And we'll talk about her in a second or two. What I'd like to talk to you about now is how the show came about. As you know, I have a show called Internet Marketing and Business Solutions with Ronald Couming on WCAP 980 AM. And because of COVID, they shut the radio station down and just started running reruns. And that was okay. I had done 3.5 years on the radio show. And so there was plenty of reruns, but some of that information wasn't as timely as it could be. So I pivoted. Now I'm doing these lives. I'm stripping out the audio, sending it to the radio station. They can do these lives, put them in rotation and give people live current information, as well as people can see some great people who can help you deal with whatever the current situation is. And then also some of our guests will just help you achieve even greater success in multiple different ways. No guest pays to be on this show. No guest gets paid to be on this show. Every person comes on because they just want to give back. I don't get paid to be on this show. We do have one sponsor that covers the cost of the software and the VA to do all the promo and all that, and that's RCS Online Solutions, and that's also my company. But and that's where we help people create online presences and then get their products and services in front of people who would ideally utilize them and hire them, or at least consider them. I want to let you know that if you are on the first page for your website or your name, it doesn't mean anything. No one's searching for you by name or by your website, your company name. Because if they know you, they're picking up the phone and calling you, right? So they are searching for they're searching for a product, service, or solution. And in that search, you need to come up for the solution, the product or the service. If you're not, then you're losing the opportunity to serve many people as well as make that additional money. So if you want to get on the first page of the search engines before you even pay me, I will get you ranked. My team and we will get you ranked on the first page of the search engines so people can find you and utilize your services before you even pay us. Contact me. You have my contact information right here. So now with the good stuff, that's all the business stuff. Mary Cheyne is going to show us how you can bypass your inner critic in public speaking. Despite starting out as a shy computer programmer who hid behind her computer because she was so self-conscious, Mary went on to become the 2009 World Champion of Public Speaking, second place winner out of 25,000 plus contestants from 14 countries. Wow. She is a transformational public speaker, training coach, and has trained over 15,000 people in 30 cities around the world, including those in Australia, Europe, Asia, Canada, and the United States. She is a TEDx speaker, author of the best-selling book, Present Yourself in Public Speaking, Tell Your Inner Critic to Shut Up and the Real You to Speak Up. So get ready to transform the way you think about public speaking. And Mary's already been on the feed because I forgot to close her out. So please help me welcome Mary Cheyne.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you. Like I said, normally I just have me there and then I bring you in for more dramatic pause. But it is what it is, okay? Consider it an old age moment, okay?
It's a good thing that at the bottom of the screen it says, everyone can see and hear you. So
yes.
I got it.
Yeah, because sometimes people don't know. Even if I make the screen big, even if I go and just make you there, if I'm typing or I'm making any noise here, everybody can still hear me. So that's good to know. This is a great service. It's called StreamYard. I don't make any commissions on them, but it's really a good service. And but anyhow, let's talk about you. I've known you for, like 12, 13, 11 years, whatever it's been. I think I met you in 2010 or the end of 2009, right after you had done and became second in the world. And I've been a huge fan ever since. So
thank you.
Yeah. And you helped me out a lot when I first moved to the area until I had a car situation, and you helped me get to and from various Toastmaster meetings, and I appreciated that. So beyond the greatness of your speaking skills, which he's going to tell us about, you're also a great person. So
thank you, and look where you are now.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
Still
Very
in
proud of you.
Just around the corner. But a much bigger and better place. But no, I really do. I like Bill Ricker. I'm probably going to remain here for quite a while. But for you, I wanted to talk a little more. Tell us a little bit more. I mean, you have a unique accent. That's not a Boston accent.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. Sometimes I forget that I have an accent, because to me, you're the one with the accent. So for those viewers of yours that have never met me before, my name's Cheyne. I was born in Hong Kong. And when I was 7 years old, my family moved to Sydney, Australia, where I grew up. And as a grown-up, I moved to the United States. And so now I live in Boston. And I tell you this, and thank you for setting me up for that, so that you understand why it is I look like an Asian person and I sound like an Australian. That's why.
Yep. Now you are Japanese, if I remember, or Chinese.
So I'm Chinese, yes.
Chinese,
so I was born in Hong Kong, so
Australia.
Chinese. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and you grew up in Australia. So do you put the shrimp on the barbie meat?
Not lately, I haven't been, but however, now that you mentioned it, I think it's a great idea.
Do they even talk like that there? Because that came from that movie. I mean, do they even talk like that down in Australia?
Yeah, what I'm more likely to say is that's not a knife, that's a knife, with a big knife, with a Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah, nice. Good stuff. Well, we know I'm in business, and I own RCS Online Solutions, and one of the things we do is we help people have a much better online presence. But at the end of the day, part of that online presence is you have to get it in front of people, and you have to convey to them. You have to have that communication. They have to feel and hear, and the communication has to be there that you can provide and solve their problem. So what I do, it kind of goes hand in hand with what you do, because communication is vitally important in so many aspects of our lives, and that's what you do. You help people, I believe, focus on having better communication, and it could be speaking in a formal way, but every time we speak to our children, to our our loved ones, a family member, a boss, or a client, or somebody we want to be a client, we are using some type of communication skill. So can you tell us a little bit about your take on the need for communication skills, and then the service you provide to help people develop them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when people come to me, they usually come to me from either business, or they want to improve their communication skills in the corporate world, just their self-confidence, right? So depending on the person that comes to me, they have various challenges. And here's what I'll share with you. Just to give you a little bit of background, I wasn't always born speaking for a living. Just to give you an understanding of where I came from the communications world, when I first started after college, when I graduated, my first job out of college, I was one of the most self-conscious speakers, and in fact so timid and so self-conscious that I'd be in a conference room, as an example, a conference room meeting with even just like 5 or 6 people, and I would barely speak up. There would be meetings that go by when I wouldn't even say a word, and not because I didn't have any ideas to contribute, but just because I was so self-conscious of what other people would think of me, and this thing that I'm going to be sharing, is it going to sound stupid? Like, just being so real with you as to where I started. And so at some point I realized that this was not going to get me anywhere in my career. And most importantly, I just didn't feel good about myself. I didn't want to have to feel bad about myself. I'd come out, it would be a common occurrence that I would come out from a meeting and I would be disappointed in myself. And I'd say to myself, why didn't I speak up? And often the thing that I was about to say but didn't, someone else would say a similar thing, and everyone's like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. So I would constantly berate myself and have this negative inner dialogue to myself after the fact, rather than just speaking up in the first place, right? So that's where I started, and I got to this place where I knew I had to work on the skill, because I knew there were two choices, right? I could even work on developing the communication skills, or I could stay the way I was and just be unhappy. So I decided to go with the route of developing the skill. So long story short, many, many years later, I have, as you know, Ron, yourself, I've been through I've learned from many, many people in how to develop my speaking skills. And when I say public speaking, I'm not just talking about, you in front of a large group of people. It could just be you in front of a few people. So learning from various people and going through various trainings and public speaking programs to develop my own communication skills, and then ultimately starting to teach it myself. And now that I've been teaching it for over a decade, looking back at my own journey, I recognized what was missing from public speaking education in general. And what that is most public speaking communication trainings and programs of such teach you skills on the mechanics of speaking. So when I say the mechanics of speaking, I'm talking about how do you stand? How do you use your voice? Project your voice louder, eye contact. I mean, have you heard of these suggestions that have been given to you? You have to have eye contact and things like that. And that's important. I'm not saying they're not important. You need that. But what was ultimately missing that I found looking back at my own journey was nobody taught me how to deal with my own internal critic. Right. So what I mean by that, for example, right now, if we were to stop talking for just 5 seconds and I was to ask you, just notice that internal dialogue in your head and what is it saying? Okay, I'll shut up now. What's going on in your head, right? So when you start to notice and be consciously aware of the internal dialogue that's going on in your head, it's incessant and it's almost always non-stop. And it's not just me, it's not just you, it's just us, our conditioned mind as a human being. And when I started teaching public speaking, I was teaching my students and my clients the way I was taught. And what I started noticing was they were still nervous. They were like, okay, Mary, I got my speech prepared and I'm completely prepared. I feel prepared. The content's prepared. But when I'm just about to start speaking, I'm still really nervous and I'm still having this self-doubt and anxiety. How can I get over that? So I reverse engineered my own process and realized that it's not just the mechanics of speaking that we need to work on. It's also how to deal with that internal critic so that in the moment of you communicating with someone, whether it's one-on-one or one-to-many, you're not allowing that internal dialogue, the negative internal dialogue that could self-sabotage you, be in the space between you and the person you're trying to communicate with. So the way I like to talk about it is the internal dialogue, if you're not aware of it and you see past it, if you don't see past it, it becomes an invisible wall between you and the audience because you're not fully present and you're not fully present to what they're saying because your own internal chatter is constantly there and in the way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's deep.
Yeah. Right. Yes, it's very philosophical, right? But really,
yeah, it's real. I can remember. I can listen as I'm listening to you. I was literally putting myself. Okay, she's saying this when I was giving presentations and I'm standing in front of the audience, and what's going on in my head is in fact keeping me from, earlier on before I got a little bit better at it, from being present, from feeling them. Because a lot of times you can have what you want to say, but if your audience, if they're up and looking away or people are looking at their watches, you got to pivot. You got to see what's going on.
Right. Yes, absolutely. So what you just said was a perfect example of what it means to be able to adjust as you communicate with someone, because communicating is not just about saying things, right? There's the words that come out of your mouth, yes. There's also the non-verbal part of the communication. So that means it's facial expression, your gestures. There's also the presence behind, let's call it your essence that's being communicated to the person, your awareness that's being with the person, right? So I'll give you an example. Have you ever been in a room when you're witnessing someone speak, and it could even be one-on-one, and you can tell that they're there, but physically, but mentally they're somewhere else, and you can just tell maybe they're thinking about something else, right? So that's what I call when someone is following the thoughts within their mind, and they're not therefore being present with you. So in other words, have you ever been witnessing somebody speak and they're speaking to you? It's like, for example, if they have a script, right, and they're reading it, they're saying it to you, speaking at you, but you don't feel like they're with you.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
In the present moment, they're not with you.
No, they're so focused on they're not thinking about what I'm getting from what they're saying. They're so focused on getting across in what they've got to say.
Right, exactly. So that's the some of the higher level concepts. Okay, so now if we bring it to everyday life, as a business person, because I know a lot of your viewers are in business, as somebody who's in business and you're engaging people in these one-on-one conversations, or even one in a large group, which is a lot more efficient because you say it once and 50 people hear you, rather than you say it, to 50 people individually, which is why I'm a huge advocate of speaking to a group of people when you are trying to communicate about what you do in your business and how you can help them, right? So it's not really about communication to get clients for the sake of getting the clients. To me, it's more about communicating your value and understanding, asking them questions and understanding what their challenges around communications. For example, for me, my topic is communications. What is your challenge in communicating? So, for example, in business, a lot of people, when they come to me for help, it's because they want to be able to get more clients, right? It makes sense, because the more clients you have, the more people you're able to help, the more impact you're able to create. And then as a byproduct of that, you get paid for it monetarily. It's the exchange of value, right? It's an exchange of value. So really then, one of the biggest challenges that I've noticed with people in business is being able to communicate their value, what they have to offer, and then asking the right questions in order to understand what the challenges their potential clients are facing, and then seeing if there's a fit to work together, and if so, what do those steps look like? So it's really about being able to say, okay, what are your challenges now? What's point A for you right now? Where are you? What is your biggest challenge? And then where do you want to go? What is point B for you? Where do you want to go? Ideally, if you had your way, what would that look like? And then just to see for yourself if this is a path that you can help them create, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, depending on what their challenge is, and being able to take them and guide them and hold their hand and support them through that, from point A to point B, and that path that you create. And if you're able to articulate that well and really understand their challenges, and you're not there to get their business, but you're there to really try and help them. Let me help you. You don't have to do this alone. I certainly didn't do this alone in my own journey, as you know, right? Because we know each other for a long time. We always have support in our lives to be able to help us get where we want to go. My point in saying all of that is, communication is not just about speaking. It's also about truly listening to someone, and to be able to do that, you got to be present. You got to be not allow your own internal dialogue to get in the way of that. Does that make sense?
No, a whole lot. And I love the whole. I mean, I agree with everything that you've said, but one of the things that I really touched upon was seeking to serve and not sell. I can remember early in my career, I was so ambitious, so to speak, that when I went to a networking event or it was engaging in a conversation over the phone, whether it was a cold or a warm call, everything I was focused on getting that sale. And every question I asked or everything was leading them to, aha, we got that. You know what I mean? Instead of, seeking to serve, not sell. Once I got past that, I don't know, about 4 or 5 years ago, right? And when I really understood it, I got past it in stages. But when I really understood, I'm here to serve, not sell, I literally tripled my business in a matter of months, and I haven't looked back, because people can feel. They can feel that shock. You're in the room, you're a shock, and you're just trying to get that contract. They can feel that authenticity. Are you here to help me, or are you here to take my money? And so once I truly got that, not just heard it, but truly got it and implemented it, my business took off. So I love how you talk about that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think two things I want to add to that, what you just said. So I think there's an element of speaking that's usually not talked about because it's more amorphous, it's a little bit more invisible, and that is energy, right? Have you ever heard of, do you agree with me that energy is contagious?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the to me, the quality of your own energy, bringing your own positivity, your own energy to the table is part of speaking, right? Because it's not just about the words, it's not just about the nonverbal, it's also about the heart. That's when I first got into business, that was what was missing for me. I was like, there's a lot of people, telling me about their programs, but can I feel that they actually care about me? Can I tell that do I feel that they're genuine in actually wanting me to get what I want, and they care about me as a person, not just as someone who's a client. So I think that what you're talking about there is that, right? Like seeking to
The
serve and not to
authenticity.
sell. It's
Yep.
about, do you actually care about me? And for me, I still have coaches because I know I have blind spots myself. I help my clients uncover their blind spots so that their inner critic is no longer holding them back to get what they want. But at the same time, I know for myself, I have blind spots because as individuals, it's difficult to be objective about ourselves because we're too close to it, right? So therefore, I continue to have a coach in my life so that I can help uncover those blind spots. But that was just one of those blind spots I find a lot of the times is the feeling is what's missing. And in fact, I did a TEDx talk earlier this year before this COVID craziness happened. Thank God I just squeezed it in. I was able to speak live in front of a group of stage of people. And that was part of the topic that I spoke about is I feel like there's a stigma in feeling. There's a stigma in our culture that feeling is weakness. And I'm actually trying to, turn the wheel of that in our culture in whatever way I can, which is feeling is not weakness. Feeling to me is a sign of strength, because that to me means you're connected to the heart. It means that you genuinely care. Okay. The more you care, the more it's going to come across in your speaking as well. And you can't fake it. You just really have to, do you care or you don't care, right? But it's a process, and it's not necessarily like, it's a process, but there's also stages, right? Presence is not this thing that you suddenly one day, or at least not for me, maybe someone out there and good for them, but for me, it's a moment to moment thing, right? Are you present right now? And when I find myself accidentally following those thoughts, like my habit as a human being does, and then when I catch myself, I can come back to present and be with you instead of being in my putting my stream of consciousness on loudspeaker, like that stream of consciousness. Doesn't mean I don't do that anymore. I still do that. But when I catch myself, I'm trying to reduce the time between catching myself shorter and shorter and shorter so I can come back to present. And that's what I help my clients do as well, because when that happens, when you can be present more often and be able to cause that for yourself, then the pressure and the anxiety, the worry, anxiety is really about worrying about the future, concern about the future outcomes being negative, and worrying is about the past, the way I look at it. So the anxiety and the nerves that comes up with speaking, or just before you get on stage, whether it's an online stage or a real life person stage, all of that can be calmed down if you can learn how to cause presence when you catch yourself not being present. So that's a long answer to the long-winded answer to your question of what do I do and how do I help people.
Yeah, but I think it's amazing and it's excellent, and it's so important. The very first part of that is the awareness, being aware that you're starting to trickle out, and then pulling yourself back is very important. And so I commend you on that. And it's not, nobody gets it 100%. It's a process.
Yes.
You learn it, you become aware of it, and then each time it becomes shorter and quicker. But even people who teach it and have taught it, like you taught at 2 different colleges, at least Northeastern, right?
Yeah, I used to teach communication classes at Northeastern. I have my own business, so I teach a lot of people in business. However, I do want to make sure that people get the full picture of how to communicate effectively as a whole. Okay, so I'm not saying when you're present, then that's it. You still need to work on the mechanics of the speaking, right?
Oh yeah, that's just
So, for example, when people come to me and they want to create a talk so that they can use this signature talk so they can speak to their potential clients about what they do. Okay. One of the biggest impediments that I see, or one of the biggest mistakes that people make, is that the talk, the content is all over the place. There's lack of flow. There's impreciseness. It's not succinct, and it doesn't hit the point that people resonate with, because communication and being able to do that and engage people effectively, it's not just about giving information, which is very linear thinking, left brain information. There needs to be facts for sure, but there also needs to be a component of engaging people in their feelings, in their emotions, right? I'm huge about engaging people emotionally. So, and it could be rearranging the content of what you say. It could be making it more succinct. It could also be saying it in a different way. It could also be saying it the same way, but in a different tone or a different delivery, right? So, for example, just yesterday, I ran a 2-day. I have this Cheyne mentorship program that I run. Cheyne stands for Speakers Hungry for Impact and Empowerment, and it's a people work with me throughout the months to become better communicators. And one specific example of a woman I'm working with right now. She's very powerful. She's an amazing story, great signature story, and she provides a lot of value for her clients. But the way she was delivering the message, there's a specific cadence. Okay, when we all speak, there's a cadence, right? Whether you have an accent or not, there's a cadence, right? So it's like if we were to take the words out of it, the tone might be da-da, 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 da-da. Someone might be a little bit more large in their delivery. Someone's a bit more quiet, right? So for her, this specific client, her cadence was whether it was an emotionally impactful thing she was sharing or whether it's just fact, she was delivering it in exactly the same way. So what I had her do was to shift some of that delivery so that in some of those more poignant moments, to soften her tone a little bit and to really become present in that moment so that it allows what she's saying to land with the people she's speaking with, not just the words, but also the emotional impact of what she just said. Allow them space to digest.
I love it. And some of that goes back to, like, you've talked a lot, so some of these points might be, a few sentences ago, but about being real, raw, and relatable. So people got to feel you. They got to feel the real. You know what I mean? They got to know that you care about them. I love that. And being real, raw, and relatable. And also, like, sometimes what I've noticed in people's signature talk, in addition to what you've just mentioned, is that they focus too much on the like the widgets. You know what I mean? They focus too much on the technical stuff, and people can't connect to that. I know that was one of my biggest issues, was that I was, instead of what this means for you, how this will help you, and the benefit for you is. You know what I mean? Those were type of things that helped me become a better deliverer of what I had to speak on, because one of my things I had to get over was I spoke too much in, like, facts type stuff. And when you need this, and you need this, and you need this. But I didn't tie it in to, and what this means for you and the benefit to you is. So I focused too much on the widget. So I was losing people there. And so.
Yeah. The other thing I want to add to that too is another common impediment for people, I find, because your audience is mostly people in business, I'm going to speak to that, is not perhaps understanding but not practically doing how prolific you can be if you just spoke more often. to bigger audiences, right? Now, actually, with the whole COVID lockdown, it's a lot of things, as you've probably noticed, right? I did a lot of events and things online, in person, right? So they had to shift online very quickly. And I always feel that it's about, as you know, business, a lot of business success, it's to do with adaptation and evolve. How do you reinvent yourself? How do you evolve? How do you adapt with the times, right? It's not just being stagnant. So being online now, there's actually more opportunities for you to get in front of people without even leaving your living room, right? And so having the people are hungry to learn more, and they want to be engaged, they want to be online more. If anything, this COVID thing's taught me is to not take for granted those connections, right? The face-to-face connections, but that but it also is a need for us as human beings. It's a human need for us to have social connection. It's not a want, it's a need. We kind of like crave that. It's a psychological need, right? So engaging people and sharing with them what you have and how you can help them, speaking is a really great way to do that. And however, even if you do understand that, one of the challenges for people I've noticed is not doing it. And why? What's holding them back, right? So there are certain common, let's call them common little voices, common internal dialogue to do with your inner critic speaking, fear-based thoughts that stop you from speaking in the first place. Like, this is before you even get on the online platform or before you even get live in front of people.
Yep.
It stops you. Your inner critic stops you before you even have a chance to be in front of people. Right? Because it's, again, that negative dialogue. Oh, but what if I'm not good enough? But what if I'm not terrible? What are people going to think of me? Right? Judging, criticizing, over analytical.
Little bit of, sometimes they call that the imposter syndrome. Should I really be up there? Am I really that good? What will they think of me? What if I mess up? You know what I mean? And there's probably 100 others. And those are things that you help people get over as well, right?
Yeah. So here's yes and no. So I'm going to qualify that. I don't even know if it's possible as a human being to not have an inner critic. Okay. So tell me if this is true for you. In my experience, as I grow, okay, as a professionally and personally, as I grow, the inner critic voices adapt.
And they get worse.
Right? It's like,
but I don't control me anymore.
Right, like 10 years ago, my inner critic was saying
me.
Right, exactly. So it follows you. It's almost like it adapts and follows you. So, and it's not a bad thing. And that, this is what I talk about in my book. There's a reason for that, because the way I see it, there, in my experience and with working with so many people, is we have two streams. Let's call them two forces. Okay, two forces within us. There's the survival force, which is our amygdala. It's driven by our amygdala, which is it's meant to keep us safe, right? Because as one of the fundamental programs of being a human being is don't die, right? We want to be alive, right? So it makes sense that there's an element within us, a force within us that wants to keep us safe, wants to keep us in our comfort zone. Don't do that. Don't take too much of a risk, because once you go outside of that, the survival program kicks in and you're scared. That's what fear is. That's what that is. But then there's also an equal force within us, which we want to thrive. We want to evolve. We want to grow, right? So at any given moment, there is like this equal and opposite force within us. So our job is not to deny that and say, oh, I'm going to conquer my I'm going to conquer my inner critic. It's not about conquering, because I don't even know if that's possible. It's about bypassing. To me, it's like, here it is, and we're going to bypass it like a stream in a river. It's like Bruce Lee says, be like water, right? It's like you go around the boulders. And so being able to take action despite your inner critic saying things to you, like you were saying, one example is the imposter syndrome, that being able to bypass that and not allowing that to stop you from moving forward, and not allowing that to stop you from growing in the direction that your heart knows, here comes the heart again, that your heart knows you want to go, right? Because there's like your head, overthinking head, and then your heart knows where it wants to go. So it's about switching it from the mind-driven existence to heart-centered. Hey, your heart saying to your mind, hey, here's what I want to accomplish. I know you can figure it out. You're smart. What do I need to do? You go ahead and figure it out and take those steps.
I love it. And to close out that part about the inner critic and yourself, you're right. The more I go on, the more I think that critic is there. But we learn, or at least I have, how to not allow it to cripple me or control me. It's there, and I use it to empower me, not disable me. But what I'd like to do now is, we got probably 10 minutes left, and I want to make sure you get across whatever it is. 10 to maybe 11 minutes. I want to make sure you get across your programs, your courses, how you can help people. And because I know you're tremendous, but I want to make sure the audience hears you. So what I want to do is, I want to put your course up here, and I want to put you on full screen. And I'm going to sit here, or I might go make a coffee, but I want you to just talk 5, 7, 10 minutes straight on what it is that you want the people who see this live, who will hear it on the station, and also it's going to be playing in reruns all over social media indefinitely. So, okay.
Awesome. Thank you,
So
Ron.
are you ready with letting me go right now? Is that inner critic going? Is it crippling you? Do I need to give you some encouragement? You can do it, Mary.
Actually, what I'm doing now is busily finding the URL so I could share it with people.
Oh, and remember the other thing too. What was
There
that? Stop, reset, and control. Remember that?
Continue.
Continue.
Wow, I can't believe you remembered that. That's awesome. Actually, I can remember. That's why I am really organized it like that. So really what I do is I help people. There's a 2-day public speaking boot camp that I run, and I run these about 4 times a year. And now, it used to be all in person, but now it's online as well as in person. And that's where I would encourage people to have a conversation with me if you feel like public speaking or communications is a challenge for you and you want to have a conversation with me. I'm just going to put up my URL now. And the URL actually that's going streaming across the screen right now is a report that I put together based on my 15 years plus of experience, top 3 myths summary, which is really a download you can get. It's a 2-page PDF summary of the most common myths that I found that people have that hold them back in speaking and holding back in fully expressing themselves. So I would really encourage you to go and get that PDF, and it'll ask you for your information, it'll ask you for your email and your name. And once you put that in there, you'll get the PDF for download, and then we'll be able to be in touch. And also at the bottom of that, you'll see that you can also schedule a call with me.
I'm still here, Mary. I was just giving you time. I'm going to put that on the same one, but I'm just going to give it some space.
Thank you.
They'll know that there's 2 different ones there. How's that?
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. And one last thing. I mean, I got time, so I mean, we don't literally have to stop at 45 minutes. But if you could also, after you get done talking about what you want people to know, could you give us 3 tips on what somebody, new to the speaking world, or just 3 tips that somebody who's either new or has some experience and want to get better, or somebody who is already speaking, like me, but knows that, I could do a lot better, you know what I mean? So, and 1 tip might cover all 3 levels. So.
Yeah. So I feel, number one, I feel like a misconception that I need to address is a common misconception, and tell me if you've heard this. I've heard this a lot, which is people's number 1 fear is public speaking. And that's actually a myth. What I found is people's number 1 fear is not public speaking, it's public judgment. So it's what people are going to think of them, right? And so therefore, to be able to bypass that inner critic, that fear of judgment, I have a very simple formula that I share with the people who come to my workshops. And in my book, I talk in detail about this. If you get nothing else from this conversation, I want you to take this away, which is the formula A plus A. Okay, to bypass your inner critic, the formula A plus A. So the first A stands for awareness, which we've covered a little bit in this call. Awareness of what? Awareness of your incessant voice that's internal in your head, your self-talk, okay, the self-internal dialogue. And then if the self-internal dialogue happens to be trying to hold you back, who am I to be sharing this? I don't want to. What if people judge me? Or I'm not ready, or I'm not good enough. I'm not prepared yet. Even though you are more prepared than your inner critic is telling you. That's the first component. Be aware of it. Just, oh, there it is again. Just start to notice it for yourself. There is the internal dialogue. That's what it's saying. And the moment you notice that, it separates you from it. So it creates space. Here I am, the person who's observing those voices, and here's little voices. So it causes separation. You are not your thoughts. You are not your internal dialogue, right? So there's a space. And then the second part of the formula, the second A, once you're aware of what it's saying, you take the action. You take the action. What kind of action? The kind of actions you don't normally take. For example, creating a webinar, jumping on, saying yes to being a guest on a podcast, or creating your own podcast, or creating your own online meeting to speak to people that potentially want to hear from you, right? So whatever the voices are that's holding you back from doing what you know you want to do and need to do, that's the simplest way that I can a phrase for you to bypass that inner critic is to be aware of it and then take action. So A plus A. I'm going to leave it at that because I feel like that's simple. And the reason I summarize it in a formula is because it's simple so that you remember it. And more importantly, so that you can apply it, right? There's this common, Ron, are you still there?
Yeah, of course I am.
There's this common, have you ever heard of the saying, knowledge is power?
Yes.
Yeah. So I feel like it's not complete. I think knowledge is not necessarily power. To me, it's applied knowledge that's power. Applied knowledge. So you have to apply it. Otherwise, it's just, useless knowledge.
I agree. And you also have to take action. We in the industry, we have, like, I go to a lot of seminars, I teach a lot of stuff. I go, and sometimes they're 3 days, and I'll sit there and I'll listen to all the other speakers because I love to listen and learn. But there are some people who are called like seminar junkies, and they will keep going back and they will keep going. But then they get the books, or they buy these self-help tapes, or they buy whatever it is, and they put it up on a shelf, maybe on a table, whatever. But we call it shelf help because they don't ever actually apply it. They get a 300-page book, they don't get past page 80. You know what I mean? So they get a series, with 12 videos in it, and they get to number 4 and they quit. So I think it's really important that when somebody does buy a course or does buy a program or participates in one, that I think kind of like the ones you do where you're physically there and you're present with them, I think those have a far higher rate of success, and because people will actually complete them. Done with you opposed to do it yourself, I think is much better than just do it yourself. Might be cheaper, but what you're going to get out of working with a coach or a mentor in that given space far exceeds, the $200 you might save by going it alone,
Yeah, I mean, there's I was just saying this to my I have it, like I said, the Cheyne mentorship program. I just ran a 2-day weekend this weekend, and I was saying this to them. I said, there's a lot of like, have you ever noticed that life doesn't come with an instruction manual? Right? And that we're all trying to figure out what we want to do, right? There's no right or wrong way. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do life, right? I personally don't want to go through life without a support system, right? I value coaches a lot. So I invest in coaches constantly. That's a mindset of an entrepreneur. That was the first mindset shift I had to create for myself when I went from an employee to a business person, was shifting from a consumer mindset, which says, how much does this cost? Right? What am I going to lose when I buy this thing? Versus an investor mindset is that if I invest in this program with this coach, then what's my return on investment? And that could be monetarily, or it can be qualitatively, right? So quantitative or qualitative return on investment. If your confidence increases, if you have a support to help you, guide you through those difficult moments when you feel like you can't do it, and then you realize afterwards you can do it, what is that worth to you? So I guess my biggest that's one of the points of wisdoms that I had to learn through life. So there's a lot of ways you can do life, and that's what I'm here for, is to help people through that. And the other thing that I want to mention is also to encourage people to have self-compassion, because our inner critic can be very harsh, okay? Especially if it's gone unchecked for a long time and you're unconscious and unaware of it. It can feel like it's real. If it's saying to you, you're bad, or, you didn't do XYZ and therefore you're bad, or you suck, or whatever it's saying, if in that moment you can at least have self-compassion for yourself and just treat it more like soothing a child within yourself, then that's what I would encourage you to do as well. Because really what I'm here to do is help uplift. The way I think about it is I'm a catalyst for uplifting you so that you can do what you do best and help more people. I say to my clients all the time, yes, I'm helping you, but really I'm here to help the people that don't know about you yet, that need your help.
I love it. And that's exactly what I do too, man. Me and you should talk. But all right, so tell me, what's the name of your book? You held it up, but could you hold it up a little bit longer?
So if you go to Amazon, present yourself in public speaking, tell your inner critic to shut up and the real you to speak up. Highly recommend it. It's available on Kindle as well as paperback.
Nice. Now,
and soon to be audio.
Your audio is cool. I like that. But now also, if people don't realize it, they can also do like PDFs if they input it into Adobe, and they can just hit, and it will replay it for you. When I was studying for some of my my tech stuff, these things were so technical, and the books were like this thick. I would just put it into I got the disc, and I would just put it in, and then put it in the PDF in Adobe. I could hit read, and it would literally read every page to me, just line by line.
Verbally?
Yeah, verbally. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I could just go around and clean or make dinner or do whatever, and it just constantly played. So it took, instead of me literally sitting there and listening and taking time out and 3 hours, I literally could now just engulf myself over like a 12-hour period and still be functional. But but so good. Now, is there a second book too?
That's the book that I would recommend, specifically about the topic that we spoke about.
Right.
If I want to leave people with one message, here's what I would say: that if you've ever noticed that you have an inner critic that's talking down to you in any way, making you feel smaller or playing smaller, and it's not allowing you to go beyond where your current level is, then just be aware of it. Just be aware of it and know that you're not the only one. It's part of being human. So that the trick is to be aware of it.
I love it. Yeah, I'm so glad we finally got together, and then I had a chance to have you on. You were on my radio show too at one point.
Yeah. Thanks for reaching out. I appreciate that.
Oh man, you have so much to offer the world, man. I'm glad I have the ability to, have some people hear about you in their lives. Hopefully, they'll meet you, they'll go to your courses, read your books, and then their lives will be better for it. So for me, that's one of the things I like about what I do, whether it's in my business and getting clients and, in with the people who are going to solve their problems. This show, getting people, is kind of like I'm putting people together. And I don't have the skill sets that you have or other people. But if I can get you and the people who need your stuff together, I feel that I kind of helped those other people by default because I was part of getting their solution solved. So I love the fact that I can just, bring people out together and stuff. Did you send something else that you wanted to put here?
Yeah, so it just occurred to me that I also want to tell people about my TEDx talk. So my TEDx talk is on a little bit of a different topic than I usually talk about, which is the hidden power of Bruce Lee that we all have. And it's a 15-minute talk. I would highly encourage people to listen to that. It sort of covers a little bit of what I talked about today, but I truly believe that if you implement what I talk about in that TEDx talk, it will change your life.
All right. Now, Mary, in your description that you sent me, right? And because this is going to go up on YouTube and all over places. Did you send me these links as well?
So it's in the private chat. I just put it in the private chat. I did not send you those links.
Okay, because could you send me them by email? Because what I'm going to do, this private chat will go down. But what I want to do is, like, when I upload this to YouTube and then I start sharing it around, I would like those links to be there so people will have access to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I will certainly do that. Thank you, Ron. I want to take one moment to acknowledge you. I've known you for a very long time, and you've definitely come a long way and I really appreciate and acknowledge you for your constant hunger to learn and grow, and then to provide opportunities to others to learn from the people in your network. So thank you.
I appreciate that. And if you would like another minute or two to give me accolades, please. I'm just kidding. All right, so let me see. I might be able to just take them right from here before I close it out. And just move it over here. And I should have them. As long as I can do that, then you don't even have to send them to me. Because I want to include them. Yeah, I got them. I want to include them in the, it looks like I got 2 of them. Like I said, I want to include them in the lot. Yeah, I got all 3 of them. So we're good.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you for this opportunity. And, you guys listening out there, if there's anything I can help you with related to communications or your inner critic, reach out to me. I'd love to see what I can help you with.
Excellent. And thank you so much, Mary. We're going to close out for now.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.